I stood on my parents' porch in the freezing December air, holding a gold envelope that contained their financial freedom, and listened to my father tell me through the crack in the door that I wasn't dignified enough to sit at their Christmas table this year. My name is Leo, and for my entire life, I have been the black sheep of a family that values optics over blood. My parents and my two brothers, Marcus and Julian, are all high-achieving corporate types who look down on my career as a freelance restorer of historical artifacts. To them, I am just a glorified handyman who doesn't fit the aesthetic of their high society holiday gatherings. This year, the tension had reached a boiling point. They didn't like my partner, they didn't like my clothes, and they certainly didn't like that I refused to work for Marcus's real estate firm. Despite the constant belittling, I had actually had the most successful year of my life. I had discovered a rare collection of documents during a restoration project that led to a massive find, and as a result, I received a six-figure finder's fee and a permanent royalty. I wanted to surprise them. I wanted to walk in there, hand my parents a check that would pay off their predatory mortgage, and hand my brothers envelopes that would clear their mounting business debts. I wanted to be the hero for once. But as I stood there with the snow beginning to stick to my coat, my father's face was a mask of cold disappointment. He told me that they had decided to have an intimate dinner with people who share their values, and that my presence would only dampen the festive spirit. He actually said that Marcus's new boss was coming over, and they didn't want to have to explain what it is I actually do for a living. The density of the insult was staggering. I wasn't just being uninvited. I was being erased from the family portrait because I didn't fit the brand. My brothers were standing behind him, clutching glasses of expensive scotch, not saying a single word to defend me. They just looked at me like I was a solicitor they were waiting for to leave. I felt the gold envelope in my pocket, the thick, heavy paper containing the checks I had written out with such hope just hours before. The wind picked up, swirling the snow around my boots, and I realized that the warmth I was seeking in that house didn't exist. It never had. I was looking at three men who viewed me as a liability rather than a brother or a son. My father started to close the door, telling me to have a nice little Christmas on my own. And that's when the rage finally replaced the hurt. I didn't beg. I didn't argue. I just looked him dead in the eye and felt the weight of the life-changing gift I was about to withdraw. I didn't walk away immediately. I stayed on that porch long enough for Marcus to let out a small, mocking laugh. "Don't take it so hard, Leo," he said, stepping forward. "Maybe next year you'll have a real job and we can actually introduce you to people." That was the evil ingredient that finished the recipe of our relationship. I pulled the gold envelope out of my pocket. I saw Julian's eyes flicker toward it. He was always the greediest of the bunch, and he probably thought it was a pathetic Christmas card with a $20 bill inside. I held it up so they could all see the elegant, heavy cardstock. "I came here tonight to do something I've wanted to do since I was 10 years old," I said, my voice cutting through the wind like a razor. "I came here to take care of you. I came here to be the son and the brother you always expected me to be, despite the way you've treated me." My father scoffed, reaching to pull the door shut for good. "We don't need your hand-me-downs, Leo. Keep your little trinkets." I smiled, and it was the coldest smile I've ever produced. I reached into the envelope and pulled out the first check. It was for $100,000, made out to my parents' mortgage lender. I held it up to the porch light. I watched the moment the numbers registered in my father's brain. His eyes went wide, his jaw going slack as he saw the bank's official seal and the 5 zeros following the 1. Behind him, Marcus and Julian froze. I didn't stop there. I pulled out the other two checks, $50,000 each, intended to bail them out of the failing investments I knew they were hiding from our parents. I held them all in a fan, like a winning poker hand. The transition on their faces from smug superiority to desperate, naked greed was the most satisfying thing I have ever witnessed. "Leo, wait!" Marcus stammered, reaching out a hand, his mocking tone completely gone. "We didn't mean... We were just joking around. Come inside, it's freezing out there. There's plenty of turkey." I looked at the checks, then back at the intimate dinner party happening behind them. I saw the expensive decorations and the hollow smiles, and I realized that if I walked in there, I would just be buying their temporary affection. I wouldn't be gaining a family. I'd be gaining a set of dependents who would hate me even more for being the one to save them. So, right there in the glow of the porch light, I began to tear. I didn't do it quickly. I did it methodically. I tore the first check in half, the sound of the thick paper ripping sounding like a gunshot in the quiet neighborhood. My father actually lunged forward, his hand grazing the screen door, a pathetic, strangled sound escaping his throat. "No, Leo, stop! Leo!" I ignored him. I took the checks for Marcus and Julian and tore them into quarters, letting the white and blue scraps flutter out of my hands and into the snow. The wind caught the pieces of their financial salvation and scattered them across the frozen lawn like confetti for a funeral. "You were right, Dad," I said, my voice perfectly calm as I watched them scramble to the edge of the porch, literally getting on their knees to try and catch the scraps of paper before they blew into the bushes. "I don't share your values. My values include loyalty, respect, and unconditional love, things that can't be bought with the 6 figures I just shredded in front of you." Marcus was screaming at me now, calling me a psycho and a spiteful loser. But the power dynamic had shifted so violently that his words had no sting. He was a man who had just watched $50,000 vanish into a snowbank. Julian was actually crying, realized that his business was going to fold by February without that cash. My father just stood there, his face ashen, looking at the empty gold envelope in my hand. "You would do that to your own family?" he whispered, the entitlement still dripping from his voice even in his defeat. "You would let us lose the house just to make a point?" I looked at him with pure, unadulterated pity. "You threw me out into the snow on Christmas Eve because you were embarrassed of me. You didn't lose this house because of me. You lost it because you decided that a stranger's opinion of your status was worth more than your own son. Merry Christmas, Dad. I hope the turkey is worth it." I turned around and walked down the stairs, the sound of my boots crunching on the frozen scraps of their future. I didn't look back when Marcus started throwing snowballs at my car, or when my mother finally came to the door and started wailing because she realized the handyman was actually the only millionaire in the family. I drove away and spent the night at a local diner, eating a grilled cheese and talking to the waitress about her kids. It was the most honest Christmas I had ever had. It's been 3 days now, and my phone has been a war zone of apologies and pleas for a second chance. They've sent me pictures of the taped-together checks, begging me to call the bank and authorize them. I haven't replied. I've already contacted my lawyer to ensure that my royalty payments are shielded from any future legal claims they might try to make. I'm done being the secret they're ashamed of. I'm moving to a new city, and for the first time in my life, I don't care what they think of my values. So tell me, was I the jerk for tearing up those checks in front of them, or did they earn every bit of that heartbreak? Would you have been the bigger person and handed them the money anyway? Or is there a point where family loyalty ends and self-respect begins? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button if you loved this holiday revenge, and make sure to subscribe for video 46, where a sister destroys a Christmas gift because it cost more than hers. I'll see you in the next one.